Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 14th of April, year 2021. Welcome. We're joined today by our normal panel. I'm positive everybody's used to the regular folks that show up on our panel, and they may be the regular folks that also show up online, like Lakshmi, Gracie, Christina. So welcome. I'm going to go one by one and introduce everyone to anybody that's new to this Facebook Live. We have Caesar, who is a channel and a spiritual teacher. Welcome, Caesar. And then we have our incredible Eileen that keeps us streamlined week after week and is always here. So amazing. Thank you so much. And then we are also joined by Louise after a few weeks. Louise is an author and a spiritual teacher. Welcome, Louise. And Travis has been away as well. So Louise and Travis have come back after a week or so. And Travis is our musician and spiritual teacher on the panel. Welcome, Travis. And then we are joined by Kelly, who's our one and only Qigong teacher. Welcome, Kelly. And the one and only April, who is a psychic and a medium and a spiritual teacher. April, I had a question. Did you want to bring up the question that you were going to, or you were discussing with me before the last Facebook Live? About Summer asked a question, but it was related to something about past people who have passed away and relationships. How can we heal them? You may have to phrase the question correctly for me.
I don't remember the question, honestly. It was a question I was asking?
You were telling me about it, and I said that would be a great question to discuss with the whole panel and everyone online. But if you don't remember it, do you remember it? You don't?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what I was talking about. No. I'm not sure. But if we remember, or if it comes up, or I'm willing to answer, but I'm not sure exactly which avenue we were going on that one.
Okay. Maybe if while we are talking, you remember what Summer was asking you a week back, right? Okay. Thank you. So you
or
can
if
answer.
She might come on too. If she comes on, she can remember, she can ask.
Okay, thank you. So this is something that we came across, School of Awakening, and I thought that it would be a good question to ask. And the question is, so Eckhart during his talk brings up this statement: when the attachment goes, then and only then love arises. So I'll write that down. And who wants to start? Caesar, you want to start on this? When attachment goes, then and only then can love arise?
Sure. You have to recognize love for love and not attachment. Most people actually confuse the two. Love is to be held gently. And it is to be allowed freedom and space. And God, I mean, it's a fine line, I believe. You have to realize the love within yourself, that the love that you are, in order to be able to love somebody else in the first place. Attachment is a clinginess, to me. People always want to hold on to that love and not be able to release it, as it's going to affect them in a negative way. Where love, I believe, is the opposite of that. It's holding it, the relationship, tenderly, gently, and allowing it the space and the freedom, with zero attachment. So yeah, absolutely. Without attachment, love is possible. With attachment, I suppose love is possible, but not likely because there will be a confusion. Short answer.
Thank you, Caesar. Eileen, you want to say something about when attachment goes, then and only then love arises?
I'm actually having audio trouble right now, but I'll be back in a moment.
Let me know. Thank you. The next person is Louise. You have some insights when you heard that the first time, when attachment goes, then and only then love arises.
Yeah, the first thing that when I heard him saying that was I felt like it's something kind of like for example, like with my husband, you know, like he's not on any kind of spiritual path or anything like that. And you know, when I first started this, like there was conflict. And so when I started accepting him for who he is and letting go of the attachments of what I thought it should be and or how it should be, and just really one thing that really changed too is just really listening, like looking at him and at his eyes when he's speaking. And then I feel like that brings up his conscious level, and I'm, you know, staying conscious, keeping some level of consciousness, then I really do feel that love really arises, and it's a different kind of love than sexual love or the love that you have at the beginning of a relationship. And it helps also to not make that other person the other person. You start to see yourself in them, and you know, you start to feel this love arising, and it's a different feeling, but I feel like that's kind of where Eckhart was going, and that's where I went when he said that in his talk.
Awesome. Thank you, Louise. That's a beautiful example of real life, how to deal with, like, the other person is not on the spiritual path, but I'll give them spaciousness, right? And that's when true love arises.
And I believe that spaciousness, yeah, is what allows the love to arise.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Travis, did you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with Caesar, and I really liked what Louise just said. You know, I really, I think that's the kind of love I aim to attain to, where I'm not asking something of the other. I'm not putting the pressure on the situation on myself and the other, where I'm making myself reliant upon them to give me something that I need for me to be able to feel okay or feel complete. Because to me, that's not what love is. That's, you know, when you think about attachment, there's like this, I want something, I need something, I'm reaching for something, I'm needing, I'm grabbing, I'm not whole, you know, and this thing is going to complete me. That's that kind of general tone. And to me, the real essence and real spirit of love, of true love or pure love, it gives freely. It realizes that it is its own, it's self-sustaining. It doesn't need anything, and its joy is to give of itself. And so you could think of, like, a great analogy would be the sun, right? You know, it is what it is. It is being what it is. It does what it does in and of itself. It's its joy. It's its nature to be that way, and it radiates outwardly in all directions and gives freely without asking anything in return. And so I think there's that possibility with each of us, because there is that, you know, and inexhaustible, even more so than the sun, really, because the sun will eventually extinguish. But there is an inextinguishable source of an outpouring of light from within each and every one of us. So when we can realize that and find love within ourselves, I know that's what I want for myself, because I don't want to make myself dependent on somebody else, because that's just a difficult situation. And I don't want to put that weight, that burden on anyone else either. So I'm enjoying, you know, learning how to love, in a word. And what was I going to say? Yeah. So I just I don't know. I'm just grateful for the opportunity, time and time again, to, you know, to really try and be that. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Travis. And I think your group meditators experienced that through you. Good evening, Ryan. Because they always say that they have like a exhilarating experience whenever they go through group meditation with you. That's why they used to love your Tuesday meditation. So I know you bring that to them. So thank you. Kelly, did you want to, this is what we are discussing, Ryan. There was a statement that Eckhart made during the School of Awakening talk, which said, when attachment goes, then and only then love arises. So we are discussing that. Kelly, you want to speak to it? When attachment goes, then and only then love arises.
Sure. Attachment is the key to either living in illusion or not living in illusion. When we are invested emotionally and mentally in our attachments, we are limiting ourselves and those around us. When we are attached to our fear-based belief systems, we are limiting ourselves and those around us. Attachment is always based in fear, and fear limits us and keeps us from being able to feel from a balanced, loving kindness perspective. And when we do let go of our preconceived assumptions and expectations, then we are able to step back into observation and not just love someone else, but love ourselves. When I got divorced years ago and had to completely change and let go of an entire life that I'd built up that was based on a false belief of love, a false paradigm that was based in wanting to be accepted and wanting to be loved, accepted by my family, wanted to hide in that and not be as emotionally responsible as I could be, as I understand it now. It was, very challenging to accept how different everything felt, how different I thought about things. And this is, I feel, part of the whole issue that people have with attachment and with the concept of love. Until we understand attachment and how we can be emotionally invested in, focused on a limiting belief system, until we have actually let go of that and done some of that work of letting go for real, not just thinking about it, not just having a conversation with ourselves, but actually going through the dirt, the dark, the shadow, all the places that we don't want to look at in terms of how we are continuously fueling that attachment and how we are keeping ourselves in a limited space. Until we actually do that and step out of that, it is impossible for love to be present. We have moments, it's possible to have moments of brief alignment with our hearts and brief connection with love, but the actual space of love, that eternal space, of deep understanding, of deep acceptance and allowance is very, very different than the sort of kindergarten and high school romanticization of, oh, I'm going to find my, perfect partner, or I'm going to find the one, I'm going to, we have that programmed into us, and we have all of these stories about love programmed into us. And when we begin to understand that our ego feeds off of these programmings, feeds off of that limitation, that limited perception of self, and until we actually understand how much our ego works at keeping us attached and keeping us focused on supporting those limited belief structures, until we actually see that and let go of that, it's a lot harder to understand certain concepts of self-realization, and because they're all based on love. Being present with self is all about loving ourselves. So any story or narrative that keeps us from loving ourselves, any dialogue that we have inside of us where we beat ourselves up or we judge ourselves, is an indication of where we're so attached to things. And it's not an easy sort of space to accept at first. And it's the irony. Yeah, I got divorced, and there's this whole storm of life changing moments and stuff like that. But I tell you, the way that we discover how strong we are is by facing our attachments and by facing those limiting beliefs and those old spaces and those fears we have of change, because that's one of the things the ego does not like. The ego does not like change, does not deal well with change, because change means letting go of attachment. Getting divorced was one of the greatest gifts I ever gave myself. Those 11 years with my ex-wife, as challenging as they were, challenging as they were, some of the deepest, most profound learning I've ever had has come from unpacking all of those attachments that false reality was based on. So yes, until attachment is dealt with, love cannot truly be present.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And there's a subsequent question waiting for the panel to discuss from whatever you stated. And I actually even have that kind of, it's a good discussion point for the panel. I'll come back to what you stated after everyone speaks, because I do have something to say about it, the limiting beliefs especially. Thank you so much. April, did you want to say something about let me go back to my, when attachment goes, then and only then love arises.
Sure, I can try to add on what everybody has already perfectly said. When it comes to Eckhart, we know that Eckhart is always pointing towards presence. That is always his aim, is to point us towards presence. And the first thought that came to me with this was, again, which seems to be the point that I always seem to go to, I'm noticing, is unconditional love. And I kind of chuckle because as Kelly and I tend to bring up the emotional part a little bit on the kind of the same line. So I kind of chuckle when he's talking about the divorce thing, because I will talk to my clients and I will say, there's a lot of meta communication that goes on between people. And that means it's not spoken. And you get with this boyfriend and you've already signed him up to take the garbage out every week, but he never actually signed up for that. He never said he was going to do it, but it's this quiet contract, right? Which reminded me of Eckhart's talk when he said, you're going to get married, and then that means don't you dare ever leave me. you know, you've signed this lifelong piece of paper that has so much value. So it brought all those pointers up for me, which I think are all relevant. And attachment is, I think everybody said it, is equal to expectation. I have expectations that my dog is going to behave this way. My dog is going to give me love and friendship when I'm lonely. The husband is, the girlfriend is, even the job, the house, the home. So we have these attachments, we have these agreements, we have these expectations. But in order to have true love, free, which Travis said is free love, unconditional love, we must remove the expectation. Now I truly love you just because you exist. You don't even have to be a cute dog. You could be an ugly one, but I love you because you exist. That's the answer to this.
Thank you so much, April. And if we were to live with our partner with that kind of love and detachment, one, I think that partner will not leave us because we are so detached. The spiritual lesson in all these partners leaving us is more about impermanence of form that Eckhart talks about, right? So form is impermanent, and now this person got up and left, whether it's a wife or a husband. And when we live with a certain amount of detachment with that person, that in itself shows that we have presence power, right? We are very conscious. We're living very consciously. And because we live with a certain amount of detachment, the other has the spaciousness to be whoever, just like Louise was saying, right? They have this spaciousness to not take out the trash, not cook the dinner, right?
Well, there's a fine line there too, that like I didn't want to bring up. The other part of this is that we do need support and we do need love and we do need bonding and communication. But the moment that I decided that I was part of Source, I was a child of God, and therefore I was loved unconditionally, I no longer seeked it out there. I already had it because I got it from Source. I don't need anybody else to give it to me. So that releases my attachments, right?
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Eileen, is your sound working? And did you want to say something about attachment?
My sound is working because I changed my headphones. But the only thing I was going to bring up was expectations, but then April just brought that up. So I don't really have anything else to add.
Perfect. Thank you. I know Ryan has joined us, and you know what the question is, right, Ryan? You want to speak to it, please? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. Lovely
You're welcome.
group here.
Our pleasure.
Well, attachment, I know for sure in my path, universe seems designed to constantly challenge my attachments, right? It's just like a cleansing. You think you got through them, and then it finds another one. But what's interesting that I noticed is the more I've trusted this, as much as it stings to have an attachment challenged, because the very nature of an attachment is like we're attached. We're like holding on to it, or we're maybe identifying with something, or it just feels important. It feels special. So there's a part of us that's like just holding on, right? And in a way, it kind of sucks to get those attachments challenged. It stings, it hurts, it's scary, or it's painful. But every time I end up finally releasing, it turns out to be a very healing and freeing experience. So it's, on the topic with love, I suppose it's sort of like what we don't realize is our attachments are also our limitations, because we're kind of settling for something much smaller than what we really are, who we really are, when we're identifying even with something that's potentially beautiful on one level. It's beautiful, but I think a lot of our attachments often come from surface level too. We get attached to surface level reality, form world, and we kind of lose connection with essence that isn't necessarily grasping for anything on the form level of reality, to feel content, to feel satisfied. So I suppose that when we are really connected to the formless, the being state, where there isn't any attachment to form level, we're able to emanate a love that is unconditional, like it was brought up, or doesn't have expectation, because it just emanates from being, or as April said, it's like oh, now the words have disappeared. but yeah, I've certainly found attachments constantly being challenged, but then I feel freedom on the other side of it when I do get through it, and that it does deepen my experience or ability to love. Every time I am able to let go of an attachment, I find, I'm able to kind of sink into a deeper place, that's beyond expectation, that's beyond just the complexity of the form level of reality, that I think often dilutes the deeper layers of love. And like Kelly brought up too, there are many different angles and definitions of the word love. It's quite a loaded word. And, the high school love versus like even marriage love compared to like agape, the deep spiritual oneness love. They're very different layers. But yeah, so maybe the other thing too with attachment is that it usually is that it's challenging something outside of us that we are clinging to. And so in a way, it's kind of reversely pointing us to the fact that we don't really need anything besides ourselves to feel complete, to feel whole, to feel the deep love. And so if we have anything that's looking outward for that, it's sort of like a vulnerable spot for suffering to come in. And it inevitably does. And then the suffering motivates us to look at the attachment, and then the attachment dissolves eventually because everything's impermanent. And we're forced back to this constant realization of, I can only find the true deep satisfaction and deep love within. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ryan. So when I heard that when attachment drops, true love arises. Now, why do we have an attachment? Is because April has brought this up, right? That we come from a sense of lack and incompleteness. That's the original sin, or missing the mark, is we are not aligned with our inner beingness. So we are coming from a sense of lack and incompleteness. So the ego or the thinking mind wants to go out in the external world and grasp, like Ryan was saying, right? Grasp onto something. And this grasping can be my car, it can be my house, it can be my child, it can be my mother, it can even be a resentment, right? We are attached to our thought formation of our resentment, and we are holding 20, 30 years back. We are still attached with a victim story on our resentment. But if you look at, and this is something I've learned from Eckhart, is each of this, I love my car. I love I love my child so much, whether it's a daughter or a son. I just love my daughter and son, or I just love my mother, or I just love my father so very, very much. When we say that, is it actually love, or is that just a thought formation? If from what is eternal within us, we can see that that is just a thought formation, what we are attached to is the thought formation. That is what Kelly, that's why I said I'll wait until everybody speaks. That's what Kelly was saying is the limiting belief, because that is the limiting belief. We limited ourselves the moment we said, I love my son, or I love my daughter, or I love my partner, or I love my house. And then we get angry. The moment Eckhart gives the example, right? The moment somebody scratches the car is when then we can see whether we are really attached or not attached, right? Does the anger arise the moment we see that a car is scratched, or we go out in the parking lot and the car has disappeared, right? Are we attached or not attached? And the attachment is, so when he's saying, to me, what it seemed like when he said attachment drops, meaning when that thought formation dropped, because that thought formation, these are the fences that we make, are the thoughts. Like what Eckhart says, right? Consciousness is trapped in a formation. This is a thought, and our consciousness is trapped. And the moment we drop the thought formation, then consciousness, all that is this alignment with inner beingness, and is the connection to source, as April was saying. And that's where true love arises, because when we align, we are source. We are living our divinity. So the divinity flows through. I've seen that with Louise. I mean, everyone, right? Like the way they express themselves, Lakshmi, Gracie, Summer. I mean, there's like a divinity that flows. Caesar in the morning, like for the past few days, I don't know what's going on with Caesar. He's like completely high vibrational state. He's like overflowing with exuberant joy. That is love. It's not what Kelly said, right? Like the different kinds of love, but that is a form of love, and that arises from that alignment. So that was my understanding of it. Eileen, did you want to read the next question? I think Red Cloud, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How do you keep your calm when you have to tell somebody you care about a health problem you have? Being nervous about their reaction. Will I cope?
So it almost says when you have to tell somebody you care, like a loved one, you're telling a loved one about a serious health problem, being nervous about their reaction. April, did you want to start with this? And I'll go in the reverse order.
It's kind of interesting because I actually found out this week of somebody who, my stepfather actually, we found out is ill with a very serious disease. And he is not one of the most spiritual people. Although he actually thinks that this is voodoo, hoodoo, he calls it, right? But it's interesting though, just on a side note, he did a spell with my granddaughter when she was like 9. She roped him into doing a spell with her, and because my mother was into all that kind of stuff and got my granddaughter into it. And do you know, like 2 days later, it was a money spell. He found $100 bill in the ditch by his mailbox. And I said, hey, what the heck? He goes, you had to breathe in the vapors. I said, whatever. So anyways, he is not one of these spiritual people, but his reaction was very interesting because my oldest daughter is very much a worrier and, a crier, and thinking I have to do something. I have to fix something. And he said to her, well, there's no sense in worrying about it. I'm going to see what my options are. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And it was a very simple explanation for a very simple, man. And I don't think there was a better answer that he could have gave. Will I cope? That phrase right there. The only thing that I would like to insert there is that it is a choice for you to cope, right? You must first give yourself the power that you will be able to cope. I have the ability to cope. I have the ability to handle this. And then I'm sure everybody is going to bring this up, is that, you know, this is an emotion. Emotions are an energy state within the body. If they are negative in nature, it is telling you that's how far away from alignment you are. So if it's bad, if it's negative, it's angry, that's how far away you are. The faster you move to acceptance, the faster you will have peace. So with emotions, you have to allow them to flow. You don't stop them. You just be with them. You allow them to flow. So that would be another thing, is allow these emotions to come, cry, scream, yell, but just allow them to flow, be with them, and don't be attached to the other person's reaction. If this is a serious health problem, they're going to be upset. They're going to cry. Maybe they'll be mad, but just, you know, accept that. And then the process goes from there. And I'll let everybody else just elaborate, but those are the basics. That's the.
Thank you, April. Wishing your stepfather a speedy recovery. I know it is about surrender. And that's another thing I'll bring up again. There's a question around that exact kind of scenario, but I'll bring it up either today or maybe next week, because even that came up during School of Awakening. Louise, did you want to say something about Red Cloud's question about illness? And
I guess, you know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I do feel that whenever I have like an issue or something that I have to tell someone, or, you know, something that I might be not sure about, it's always, you know, again, going within, like just taking that time to allow yourself to be centered. And so that way, when you're talking to that other person, you have a level of consciousness that keeps you grounded, and you're not taken away by the emotions or whatever happens during the conversation. So, you know, I just really, really believe in the more you're rooted in your being, the less reactive you are, and you're able to accept other people's reactions in a way that you're not, you know, thinking, you know, I think it's important before you say something important to someone else is that you're not thinking so much, you know, you're not making up a story of what's going to happen and how they're going to react, and, you know, what the future is going to hold and all this stuff, because it's just the story, and we don't know the future. So it's just craziness to allow yourself to go there. So I would just recommend that, just taking the time to really center yourself, and you know, have that spaciousness when you present this to that person. And again, like what April was saying, don't have expectations of what, you know, that's again a story of what they're going to think and how they're going to react, and just, you know, be in that moment, and each moment will present itself the way it's supposed to. So
thank you, Louise. Thank you, Louise. I think that's what I call self-limiting belief, right? They've already believed that something wrong will happen, and then that will manifest, because you keep saying, oh, they're going to be reactive, they are going to be reactive, they are going to be reactive, they are going to be reactive. So they will be not able to handle the news, right? The moment we say everything is going to be okay, like what April gave an example of, maybe it will be okay, maybe it will not, but at least we stayed in the state of unknowingness of it all, right? Thank you. Ryan, did you want to say something about this? Any suggestions for Red Cloud?
Well, yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is just that most of the question is based in future. How will someone react? Not right now, because unless you're telling your health problem right now as you're listening to the Zoom call, which probably not. So just noticing, okay, my mind is playing in future right now. It's trying to guess how somebody's going to react, and kind of look at that a little bit. But then, I find it to the last part, will I cope? The way you can most sort of guarantee that you'll cope then is if you're practicing coping now. So, so a really important question is, how do I feel right now? Okay, so you kind of mentioned being nervous about their reaction. So you feel nervous. So that nervousness about this future event would be really the thing to cope with right now, to practice, to be present with, to surrender through, which also means, as Louise pointed out, right, welcoming not knowing. We don't know how someone else is going to react, nor are we responsible for how someone else reacts. That's their practice, that's their path. But we can work on our reactions. And so right now, your present reaction is nervousness. So that's the one to work with. And besides that, then it's just surrendering to, I don't know. Also, I mean, if you have a health problem, there's going to be some challenging resistance maybe coming in there too, some fear. Depending on how severe the health problem is too, fear of death is kind of the root of much fear. So looking at any of that within ourselves that can be kind of shaken up during a health challenge. But again, it's like, to me, a really important question is constantly asking myself, holding this question, how do I feel right now? So even if I felt nervous speaking on Zoom, well, that's what I would be present with and breathe through. So same for you, Red Cloud, just kind of coming back, okay, how do you feel now? Can you release that nervousness of future and be content and present? And then when this event does come in and you do tell your family member, you'll be coming from a state of a higher state of consciousness because you're practicing in this moment. And yeah, that's all that comes up. And much love and healing to you. It's never fun to go through a health problem.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And I feel, is this not, Kelly brought up in the last question, something about the programming or the past conditioning, as Eckhart would say. So is it not the past conditioning of the thinking mind that we cannot handle the emotion? And it comes in, the thinking mind will say, oh, no, you cannot handle that nervousness. But we know, since we practice presence, we know it has infinite depth and infinite capacity to handle anything, right? If we are nervous, just give it attention. Where am I feeling the nervousness? Is it in my tummy? Is it like curling up? And is there an ache in my tummy? It gives the feeling, right? Let me sit with it, kind of thing, right? So thank you for that pointer, that just experience the nervousness in this moment. Eileen, did you want to say something about this to Red Cloud? I know you're responding to questions as well.
I know, I'm kind of trying to go back and forth more than I usually have to. I don't think I have anything to add right now, but thank you.
As far as handling the situation, how about
Yeah,
your G word?
I think, well, he also added maybe he's still in a non-acceptance state, but he said it and I agree. So
Perfect. Thank you. Caesar, did you want to say something about the situation? Thank you.
Sure. I think it's an inner management job. Everybody touched on it, being presence, acceptance, surrendering to the situation as it is. And to be present when you're passing the information along to your loved one, I think is very important there. Because when you express it with fear or anything outside of presence, I should say, that will also in turn create that same type of reaction to your loved one who you're telling. So I would say root yourself in presence. It's important that you accept the isness of it first. That will help the other person accept it as well, showing no fear. It is as it is. It will be as it will be. We know that worrying about it is just going to not help the situation. In fact, it'll probably further the sickness altogether. We believe that the energy is manifested that way through stress and creates sickness, and the healing will come through a peaceful, loving presence, because the cells react to the energy that you possess, and presence always contains peace, love, and joy, gratitude, things of that nature. So I think it is important to be present, not worry about what the other is going to think. And will you cope? 100% you will. You have coped with everything you've ever dealt with. We all have in the moment, and be confident and it will be okay. And then spread that energy. The energy that you possess is what you will transfer to the people you are giving the information to, I believe. So presence and acceptance on both ends.
Thank you so much, Caesar. Flood your body with light and it'll bring in more healing. And so wishing him a speedy recovery. I'm sure Kelly has a lot more to say on healing. So go ahead, Kelly. Hey, you do energy work. So
Yep.
Qigong is one of the most ancient practices of energy work. So thank you.
The reality that Red Cloud sounds like he is trying to step into, where he has indicated there is a nervousness that is in his stomach, which is where we literally digest our old and new realities before we translate them and cement the new information to bring them up, to express them outward. Makes a lot of sense. The mastery of thought leads to the mastery of body. Letting go of our attachment to our fear of rejection, not only of what we want to express, but also our own personal rejection of self, and how our reality is not going according to plan, or we get a surprise. I mean, at a soul level, whenever there is illness, and again, having survived asthma that almost killed me regularly as a kid, dealing with a high level of sensitivity to my own fear and the fear of those around me, gave me an understanding of how to listen to fear and how to let it move through me. And ups and downs growing up, it changes. I had periods in my life where I lived more in fear than in alignment, and that's part of the learning process. Health issues are always a big trigger, always a big trigger. There's no two ways about it. Part of that has to do with the fact that there's this new piece of information and a new challenge, and the triggers around that, the emotional content around that, the fear. I mean, we don't want to die. We don't want to be sick. We want to live peaceful lives. We want to be able to love ourselves and everyone around us, and we want to be able to enjoy life. Except the reality is that we're also here to learn, and we're here to challenge ourselves, and sometimes those challenges do arise and come to the surface in our lives as health issues. And my sincere sympathies on having to deal with health issues. April, my love and prayers go to your stepfather. Is it stepfather-in-law, father-in-law, stepfather? Okay, all right. And they're always learning experiences. A few years ago, I had a really bad mold infection, And I honestly had no idea, because my Qigong practice is so deep. I just sort of like kept on sailing through it and did not understand until I discovered one day, you know, I left my water bottle out in the car in the heat, and when I went to get it, there was all this black mold in it. And I went, oh, okay. Well, this explains why I have these physical sensations and why I'm so tired all the time, and why, you know, this and this other thing was going on. So I went through a healing crisis about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and cleaned my body out and stuff like that. And it was actually really embarrassing. And I had to deal with this embarrassment, because I realized it was such a small thing that I'd missed. There's a crack in the seal in my water bottle, and I didn't catch it. You know, I'm really religious about washing my water bottles. And because of how, you know, conscious I am of my space, and how dedicated I am to my personal routines and eating and drinking and all that, I just was absolutely embarrassed with myself that I had missed this thing. And I went, oh, wow, that's a new feeling. That's, you know, and then it was just like, well, how do I tell people that I was like, you know, that I was just stupid, that I didn't, you know, how do I deal with that fear of rejection? I went, oh, wow, I haven't had this kind of a, you know, and it's like listening to my ego just to like chatter away. It's like, oh, we got like good food now. We can like take them down. Kind of like maniacal cartoon laugh on, just like, this is where I get the popcorn out and like start like watching the movie, just like watch it run away with everything. And it was a huge learning experience, because I am so dedicated to my practice, to, you know, being present, to monitoring and mastering my thoughts and my emotional states and my energy. And it's just like this, you know, out of left field, completely took me by surprise. But it also explained an awful lot of things. So there was that learning. And, you know, it's caused me to be just a few hairs more vigilant with certain things, and cleaning my water bottles and stuff like that. And, you know, but yeah, like there was that moment where my shadow, my ego went, oh, we can't tell anyone, because they'll think, you know, they'll call us all these, like the whole like litany of things like went through my awareness. Is like that internal dialogue where my ego was like, oh, this will be like, yeah, this is great. We got him on something. And I was watching that part of my awareness sort of like try and run amok with this, and just like, okay, it's just another thing. It's just another day at the office. As scary as health issues are, I mean, this is life. This is, you know, we have these potentials that we seed, where we have these limiting beliefs that life should be one way. And then you wake up the next day and you have this new reality, and we have to deal with it. And that's the learning. It doesn't matter whether or not it's like you stub your toe in the middle of the night and you've got a broken toe, or you have like a health issue or whatever. It's dealing with literally the pain of reality, the pain of that dichotomy where we're attached to something, we're attached to viewing life in a certain way, and then it changes. And we think that it was going in one way, when really our soul contract has this other learning for us. So, you know, my sincere sympathies, Red Cloud. And like, having dealt with my own nervous issues and anxiety when I was a kid and a teenager, especially before I learned Qigong, like just the way that our ego can trigger our nervous system and cause us to believe that we are overwhelmed, when that is actually just the ego programming. That is just the conditioning of our attachment to our programs of fear that cause us to feel overwhelmed and cause us to fear rejection. And, you know, often, you know, truth is always the best course of action. And being honest, I mean, especially with, you know, if it's someone that you love that you're trying to share this new information with, trust in the path that's been laid out in front of you. And from my own personal experience, I've known that when I've actually trusted, and I've gotten really good at it in the last few years, when you do trust the universe, it, you know, and the feeling of love for yourself in your heart grows. And that is the whole point.
Thank you so much, Kelly. The one point that the one pointer that I actually loved was when you said it's a disruption, something to along the lines that it's a disruption, and our mind actually, what I feel is used to a routine, and here comes bam, like a something like so is going to take us out of our regular path, right? Like 5 a.m. I drink my cup of coffee, 6 a.m. I'm in the shower. No, now you have doctor's visits, now you have hospital visits. You
Spiritual
may,
evolution never happens in our comfort zones.
right? Perfect. Thank you so much, Kelly. Travis, did you want to say something to Red Cloud about their? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Red Cloud, for sharing and for your question. And thanks everyone. It's nice sitting here with everyone and listening. And so I guess the words that come up for me around this are, if we want to help someone to be more accepting, what can we do? Is to find a deeper place of acceptance within ourselves. If we want to see someone we know and care about be more understanding, how can we help to bring that about? Is to find a deeper place of understanding within myself, within ourselves. The way that we can help the people that we care about come into the space inside of themselves that we would like to see them in is by helping ourselves to come into that space, because that's the only part that we can really do anything about. We can only help one another indirectly. So through directly accessing these qualities within ourselves, because that's the only place that we have any real immediate agency, and by letting those that we love and care about go, and detaching, loving them, then, and allowing them to be, allowing them that space, again, that's grace. And so by doing that, it immediately takes all of that pressure and strain off of the relationship. They can see and feel that we're okay with them coming into whatever degree of maturity that they come to find within themselves in their own time, because we've found enough maturity within ourselves to allow them that space, allow them that time, to know that there's no big hurry to get to the finish line. And so when we can accept those that we love with their shortcomings or wherever they happen to be, it's not you know, it's I think of plants in nature, you know, just because a tree has yet to bear fruit doesn't make it any less beautiful, doesn't make it any less special. It's just a young tree, you know. And so, and that's all of us. And so if we can all just appreciate and allow one another to be where we are on our path, and but that's what comes up for me. I you know what I almost think of, I'm a very visual kind of person, is I see each of us as like a dot. If you were just a dot, and then around that dot is maybe like, say, like 3 feet or whatever, 3 inches or whatever it is, it's a circle around that dot. That's your space. That's your own space there. And we all have that, and it's very sacred. No one can enter that space. I mean, you know, it should be an invitation only space. And so, and in that way, like, that's it. Everyone else has that space. I can't do anything in that space. I can only do it in my space. And so, so instead of reaching out to try to help, if I go back in toward that dot, toward the center of my circle, and find that axis upon which that wheel or that circle is anchored, and can go into that space of beingness and find tap into the love and the wisdom and the intelligence and the patience and allowance that comes from that, then it helps other people to do that in their little circle. And we all have that, and we all kind of overlap, and it's not always clean. But that's what comes up for me, is just that finding it myself, and without even, sometimes you don't have to say anything because you are it. You're exemplary. You're modeling it without even trying to, and it helps others to find that space within themselves because they recognize it in you. They recognize it in themselves, and they just go there almost automatically. It's just a very natural phenomenon. So that's my response. And thanks, Red Cloud.
We're grateful for the question, Red Cloud. What I would say is, I think I'll play that video sometime during group meditation, but Eckhart had a beautiful way of, I think he dedicated almost a whole talk during School of Awakening on what is the background and what is the foreground, right? So what Travis is talking is about the dot is your background. That's the eternal, the immutable, the formlessness, the essence of who we are. And your illness is giving you that opportunity, right? To be this background all the time. Just be the background. I don't know anything. I'll stay in the unknowable. I'll stay in this red dot, in this dot. From moment to moment, I'm the dot. I don't know what's going to happen. I need to call the doctor, pick up the phone, call the doctor. Yeah, my appointment is at 8 o'clock. Thank you, doctor. Put the phone down. Next day, go shower, be ready, but whatever time it takes you to get to the hospital or to the doctor, be there at 8, no thought, right? Be the dot or be the background and experience it. Who are you with? What nurses are you? How is your interaction with the person that checks you in? How's the interaction with the nurse? Well, how is the interaction with somebody who's taking your blood pressure? Allow your presence to flow into, that's all, moment to moment to moment to moment. Because be on the razor's edge, as Eckhart uses that word, right? Of the present moment, and everything will flow. Okay, I need to talk to this person. Bring the person in front of you. Say facts, no drama, because the ego loves drama, right? No drama. Okay, I have so-and-so this thing. I need to go to the doctor or whatever the treatment is for whatever this illness is, right? That's it. No drama. No crying. Just this present moment and see how that works out. Right, Travis? Be the background. And that was the whole talk. And I'll play it during group meditation. Eckhart just kept reminding us, oh, what you're looking at a stone, you're looking at a plant, that's the foreground. The sickness, the illness, foreground. This other person, this partner or loved one is the foreground. The background, the dot, be the dot. Right? Beautiful. Eileen, I know there's been a lot of chat, so not sure what the next question is. Is it Tanya?
I think there's 2, but now I gotta go back and find.
The next one was Tanya, right?
Yes.
Did you want to read it, please? Thank
I'm
you.
trying to get to the one because she had 2, but the first one we talked about already because it related to the first topic. Then she has a second. So it says, how do you survive when you are the outlier, when you are the one that is different?
And previously she'd asked, how do you let go of these limitations and preconceived notions? Right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And you were,
So
I think you were
either one.
talking about that at the end of the first question.
Perfect. Thank you. Caesar, you want to start on this? How do you survive when you are the outlier, when you are the one that is different?
Okay. I was kind of that person growing up because I was really short and I had a funny name. So I got picked on a lot. But what I've learned, mostly through Eckhart's teachings, is that one, don't take anything personal, and try to just eliminate thoughts about fitting in. There's no need to fit in. The only validation needs to come from yourself, nobody else. That's not what's important. Yes, pure acceptance of yourself and not giving any attention or any thought to others of what they think. Their opinions of you are not our business. It's not your business. And don't ever take anything personal. When you start thinking about what other people think of you, it becomes your problem. If you pay no attention to that and give it no attention, there can be no problems. So take away the thought about it. I would guess to say, and don't seek validation from others. It's not important. If you are comfortable in your own skin, which is what's important. Again, it's an inner management job. Getting the inside right for yourself to obtain your peace, which eliminates worry. And again, it's all surrounding acceptance, forgiveness, surrender. Things are really important when dealing with yourself, to accept yourself as you are. You're perfect in this moment, regardless of how we look, think, act, feel, talk. That's all ego stuff. Just know that you are perfect in this moment as you are, and it's not important to seek validation from other people. So accept yourself as you are. You are perfect.
Thank you so much, Caesar. I think I heard Dr. Deepak Chopra say, what other people think of me is none of my business, right? So the moment we let go of, and we've been talking about attachment, we should let go of that attachment that I need to worry about. The other, since Caesar is, every time I come to Caesar, I don't know, my Abraham Hicks antennas go up. She talks about this harmonizing. So what happens is when we start to live up to the expectation of others, right? Like if you have a husband who says, oh, you don't cook too well, you don't cook too well, we'll harmonize to the, I'm not really not a good cook, or anything that somebody may say, right? Your relative, your mother may say something, or your father may say, oh, you're never going to be a good athlete, right? Growing up, your father may say, you're never going to be a good athlete. And all your life, you've never discovered the skill that you have, which is to be a good athlete, right? So we harmonize, and that's vibrationally. Go ahead, Caesar. You were going to say something, Caesar?
Yes, I was just going to say, like, don't adapt to the energy in the room, influence it. That's what came to mind there for you.
Yes. Be an influencer, right? And be under the influence of source. So when you influence, you are source influencing the others. So beautiful. Thank you. Aline, did you want to say something to Tanya?
I was just getting ready to type into the chat that I think I'm gonna have to get off. I am so tired today. I apologize.
Sure.
It's been a long week, but let me think. For me, just acceptance, like true acceptance. We have to have unconditional love for others, but we have to also have unconditional love for ourselves. So to me, surviving as an outlier, like you do that through acceptance. Not
Perfect.
accepting is just suffering. So, but
Get
yes.
some rest. Get some rest. Thank you so much.
And
I'm
thank
grateful
you.
for your help. Appreciate it.
No
Week
problem.
after week. Have a good night. April, did you want to talk about this being an outlier? I'm sure all of us have experienced this, right? Some way or the other.
Absolutely. I think that that's a universal feeling, some more than others. You know, even last night I watched, I have a daughter who likes to watch movies, so we tend to do that together. And we watched the new Jumanji for, I don't know, I think the 5th time, with The Rock in it, Dwayne Johnson. And even in that show, that was outside of the one kid that's called the Fridge, that's the football guy, all of them were misfits. Even the popular girl, the blonde girl with the blue eyes, she felt like she wasn't good enough. She had to measure up and get, you know, but that movie is so funny. It just, so I think all of us across the board feel this. And again, that's going to go back to what we've talked about before, is the measuring up, the needing the gold star, and again, the programming of, and then our parents and how our parents treat us, and the messages that the belief systems that we're given as a young age of whether we're measuring up, we're good enough, we're liked, we're tall, we're skinny, we're all these things. So how do you survive? You survive by learning to give yourself unconditional love. That's how you survive. You survive by not caring about what other people think, and realizing that if you are going to put your happiness in the hands of somebody else, in the hands of others, they are going to drop it every time. Every single time. Why? Because they're human. So you cannot put your happiness in the hands of others. You cannot care about the opinion of others. And when you start to embrace your differentness, is that a word? Differentness. I'm going to be like Abraham and start creating words here that aren't real. Then you will start to have true peace. And when I started to truly not care about what other people thought, to me, that is where freedom lies. That's where true freedom lies. When you really start to not care what other people think about you. And I'm at the point now where I almost think it's funny when somebody has an opinion of me. I kind of chuckle. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. But so it's not that I have a wall. So I don't explain this to you. It's not that I have a wall, but it literally, I don't allow it to come in through the energy bodies. I don't allow it to even get to my heart, to get to my head, because you know, energetically, your heart gets it first, right? Through the energy bodies. I don't even let it get to my head for me to even consider whatever their option is, right? Because I have this inner knowing, this inner belief, this alignment, this presence that with source, I have ultimate worth. I have innate value. And that is the only opinion I need, is mine and source. And mine has adapted to sources, right? I'm kind of humanizing it a little bit, but the opinion of myself is in line with source's opinion of me, and therefore no other opinions matter, right? You have innate, ultimate, unconditional worth. Your differences are to be, they're to be valued. They're to be appreciated, that you are different. You would not want to all be the same. really. I think is it Wayne Dyer that says that? He says, let me put you into a white room with a white chair and a white and everything, that's all you get. What kind of life would that be? Your differences are to be celebrated. And when you can start celebrating them, then you will be free. You will no longer be suffering. The suffering will disappear.
Thank you so much, April. You know, Byron very early on said she has a prayer. God spare me from seeking love, approval, and appreciation from others. Amen. Right? Which is perfect, what you said. Thank you. Luis, did you want to say something about Tanya's question?
Well, just I guess I can share my own experience, and I think that the further you go along on your journey, the less and less you care about or are affected by what other people think or say. But it is a process, and I don't really feel like there's any doing in it. Like I feel that it's just transformed as I've grown on my journey to, it's just naturally gone away, you know. And there are times when I have felt like a little bit of a sting, maybe somebody said something, but then again, you know, just feeling it, letting it go. And once you do, it's just gone. So that's just been my experience. I feel like a lot of things have just left me without me doing anything. So it's just being, you know, present as much as you can in your everyday life. And I think the longer that you do that, the more and more you're on this journey, the more and more things just transform themselves.
So
that's just my experience. Yeah, and I guess not feel like you have to do something like I need to do step 1, 2, and 3 so I don't feel affected by what other people think of me. It's more like just stay in your lane, do what you need to do, and eventually a lot of these things that seem like problems are no longer problems. But it's, you know, there is some trusting in that too, that you're not going to be perfect and you're not going to have, you know, and you will feel these things from time to time, but you just trust that if you stay centered and, you know, in your lane and not worried about what everybody else is doing and thinking, then those things don't even seem to be a problem anymore.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's another thing that Eckhart says, right? Our greatest immunity is presence against anything. So even against people that think that we are an outlier, right? Thank you. Travis, did you want to say something about this question that Tanya asked?
Sure. Yeah, well, I like what everyone said. I really resonated with what you said, April. And I just think that, you know, well, I think that all of us experience, you know, I've had friends who they seem like they kind of have it all or something, you know, they whatever, they have the looks or the life situation or partner or money or what, and they seem so perfect. And then when you get to know them intimately, you see how they feel different. They feel like an outlier. They don't feel complete or perfect in and of themselves, or there's something wrong, something missing. So even when we, you know, see people that seem like they fit in so well to what the collective general consensus is of what would be desirable, we all at some, you know, time and in some way in our lives, we all feel like the outsider. We all feel alienated. You know, for me, what I think is most important is to find the place where that we're all the same, to find the unifying factor. When we can see, I go, that's exactly the same thing that I see in you, that I see in myself. It's exactly, it's one and the same. I mean, even you know, when I meditate in the morning, sometimes I'll light a couple of candles, and I have these two candle holders, and one's a little bigger and taller, and you can almost see them on the mantle there in the background. And the other one's a little smaller version of the same thing. And they look like they're two different ones. They're separate. One's bigger, one's smaller. But at the heart of both of them is the same flame. That's the same flame right at the very heart of each. And I go, look at that. That's the same flame that's in each and every one of us. So if we can see that, now we can relate. Now we can see the way that we're the same. That's the most important part. And so when we're able to find that and recognize that and acknowledge that in others as in ourselves, now we can get to the secondary part, which is a ton of fun, which, as April said, is celebrating our differences. I remember, you know, growing up with kind of hippie parents in the music scene. I'd go to these like camp out concert weekend festival things as a teenager, and it's so wonderful to see people wearing so much like crazy different styles of clothes. You know, shorter people, taller people, wider people, narrower people, and everybody's just celebrating. They're so happy to be there together, and nobody fits the mold. and it's a celebration of our differences. We're not all supposed to talk the same or look the same or smell the same or anything. So and so when we can find that flame that is what makes it all possible, right at the heart of all of us, then from there, now instead of feeling alienated because of our differences, now that we've found the primary unifying factor, now instead we can honor and celebrate and feel good about our differences. So you know, let your freak flag fly is what I say.
Thank you so much, Travis. Always a pointer to the eternal within us. So thank you. I'm grateful for it. Kelly, I know Red Cloud joined us, but you want to say something quickly so we can ask Red Cloud if there's a question, but go ahead. If you want to speak about Tanya's question.
Sure. Being an outlier, there's a big secret about being an outlier. Everybody wants to be one. We're all working at walking our path, and truthfully, authentically walking your path and evolving spiritually means that you are an outlier. And this is honestly where people and everybody really want to be. So survival as an outlier, you are paving a new path. Take it to heart that what you are doing as an outlier is new, is going to pose challenges, is going to challenge everyone around you. If you are doing something that is new and goes against, especially family karma or the family patterns. I've been an outlier my entire life. Black sheep of the family, hands down. Both my parents, same thing. So I've got it in the blood. Being an outlier is awesome. I honestly, I love being an outlier. When I was a teenager, it was hard because I ended up in high school, in a big high school where there are all these cliques and all these little social niches, and I fit into none of them and all of them all at the same time. So I often got like, questions like, where exactly do you fit in? Because in high school, belonging was a huge thing. And being an outlier is great because you see things differently. And this is your gift. Being an outlier means that you perceive differently. You have the capacity to be different in the first place. It means that this is part of your soul contract. If you are an outlier and you are doing things differently and you are challenging those around you with grace and loving kindness and just the way that you express yourself, then it's your soul contract. And when I came across this concept of soul contract when I was a teenager, it suddenly just Tetrised a whole bunch of things together and gave me much clarity that I was seeking in terms of understanding why I didn't belong, why I did not feel like I belonged. And Caesar, I really like what you said about finding yourself, finding you're not having your identity being dependent on those around you, those outside of you. And I feel this is probably the greatest challenge for an outlier to come to terms with when they are understanding or working at accepting who they really are. I know it was for me. Again, marriage and everything to make sure that I understood that marriage and divorce was my, concrete, coyote roadrunner anvil across the head. It's like, nope, this is not for you. So the spaces that we choose to be in and those that we are around will reflect back to us everything that we need to know about ourselves. And if you are feeling challenged or overwhelmed, you need to look at your ego narrative. You need to look at what it is that is causing you to feel that it's hard to survive, because the concept of surviving and survival is a fear-based concept, is an ego concept, is one about being emotionally overwhelmed all the time and not being able to be present. And this is the thing that the ego wants you to believe, is that you're just going to survive, you're going to scrape through because you're so different, it's going to be hard. That is programming, that is ego, and that is the illusion. It is not hard to survive. When we believe it is hard to survive, of course it's going to be hard to survive. That's the limiting belief. When we go inside and we listen to the difference in the voices between our heart and our head, when we actually go into our heart and are present with what is beneath the feeling of being overwhelmed, the anger, and especially the fear of being ourselves, then you'll begin to understand that being an outlier is an absolute gift. There's a great book written by Malcolm Gladwell about outliers. Even in the martial arts world and Qigong world, I am a huge outlier. I've done exotic things that most people never ever considered possible or even existed still. Some of the Shaolin stuff. Pure luck, finding some of my teachers in the middle of the prairies, the freaking, middle of nowhere, Winnipeg. Here there's some like great masters in the city, and I'm just like, okay. And that's also the reality of being an outlier, is that you'll find yourself in unique situations because you are unique. And again, that is your gift, being able to have that unique perspective on reality and to be able to speak from those unique experiences is your gift to the world. Some people might not like that because it challenges them, but that is also your strength. The fact that you have it in you to look from a different space and to challenge the old paradigms. 2 cents.
That was more than 2 cents, Kelly. It was almost like about $100 worth of wisdom.
I should write a book on that.
Yes. One of the things I would say is, and this goes back to what Eckhart told a woman who said that she was highly sensitive, What I would say is saying that I'm an outlier is also an identity. Now we have a different identity, right? All this time we were an identity that our parents, whatever identity our parents gave us, right? Like for me, it may be I'm East Indian, I'm a girl child, right? But then now we are building another identity, which is I'm an outlier. And now that's the attachment. Again, consciousness is trapped in form, and we need to free consciousness from form so that we can just be that planetary intelligence, right? We can be the connection to source. Thank you so much for that, Kelly. I know, Red Cloud, did you want to ask a question from the panel? You joined, did you have a question? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning in Spain. It's 3:30 in the morning a.m. I'm glad finally to join everybody, the group. I hope, are you listening to me? I don't know if it's,
yes, we are able
okay.
to listen.
Thank you very much, so very much for your answers, for your solutions that you came up with. Let's say my problem or my situation, whatever, right now. I'm continuing listening with what is everybody talking. And for the moment, I have certain opinions regarding Jesus. It's too early in the morning. Imagine I'm very tired. But I would prefer continuing listening with a different subject, because with the I was a little bit trying to connect with the Zoom and everything, so I'm not so that into the subject, if you know what I mean. So
you're a little preoccupied trying to figure out Zoom, so you haven't been following.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Oh my God, you found my words in 3 seconds. Yes. Thank you, Kelly. I was trying to connect. I was with the messages and everything, and trying to download the app and everything, and trying to connect. Meantime, I was listening to all the conversations, and I'm not keeping up with the conversations right now. So I will have to make a consequence of whatever everybody was saying. Please excuse me.
You can always listen to the recording.
Well, that's a new thing to me. I will have to check up on that. How I'm going to make it. I'm going to go onto the recording and everything.
We normally upload it to YouTube, so it's just a YouTube video.
Okay.
You just play the video.
Well, I'm trying to disconnect all the time from the technology and everything in order to connect with nature, humans, people, animals, and everything. So I'm a little bit stressed out with the technology that I have to figure out in the moment in order to manage and stay, with everything that's happening in 21st century, unfortunately. So please have a little bit of patience. I am so very sorry.
Beautiful.
Can I just say we're grateful.
Beautiful.
Red Cloud, we are very grateful to have you and to have answered your question, and we're grateful that you took part in this, and we definitely wish you the best of luck, and you are on the right path, my friend.
Well, I guess I'm trying to, all day, I'm trying to be on the right path, at least.
Wishing you a speedy recovery.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. You're very kind, all of you. And I'm very very grateful, graceful. I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart from all the ideas, all the energies that you have sent me, all the meditation ideas, and Kelly and Poonam and everybody else. I'm gonna give a real thought tonight before going to sleep. I'll have to change some things. You're most helpful, beautiful souls.
Thank you. It's almost an hour and a half, so we can end this session right now. We'll meet again next Wednesday, the same time, not 3:30 in the morning for you, Red Cloud. So get some rest, right?
I'll try.
Don't wake up at 3:30 in the morning to just join the Facebook Q&A. For us, it's evening time. So I know it's getting late for Caesar and for April, but I'm gonna bring up that question that I had once you told us about your stepfather's state, April, next week. Because it is a question that's stacked up from the School of Awakening talks. So it's an honor and a privilege to have all of you week after week. I am like eternally grateful, like that you'll come in, and the people that are online. Red Cloud, for you, eternally grateful that you've been here and given us enough food for thought that we were able to speak to it. So it's a humbling experience. And many blessings, much love. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. The same. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Have some